So all I did, Tom, is I took everything out of, Tom and Mike, took everything out of my finance manager, moved it down to the 1430 account. We took Diane's salary out, obviously she retired, so she's not.
Okay, but this is still your partner. Okay, yeah, I see. So she's not in this.
No, because she retired, so we
Okay.
we didn't want to pay her for not working.
You are, though.
Kind of, yeah.
Nice benefit.
Yeah.
Nice benefit.
It's not coming out of our coffers.
So the top one,
Right.
the one that zeroed out because of that?
Because, yes, that was Diane's. And then you have my salary underneath hers, which
Okay.
matches my salary from 2014. So. Once again, keeping with the theme, no raises for anybody who's still showing the levels for 2014. So. The only other really change in here is conferences. If you look at my original, I was getting $500 for 2014. It's $1,500 now. I took an account 1610, and that's from Central Services. We had conferences in there of $1,500 that we put in every year and barely touched. I pulled some money out of there because I want to, Nikki's going to go do some training on HR, because our job, even though we're not really HR, seems to be a lot of HR, so I'm going to get her going on some training, and also Stephanie, just attending some local stuff so they can try to better themselves. So I'm not saying we're going to use all that. I'm not going to New York City. I didn't find it beneficial to myself. I think it's very expensive, and I can get just as good a training around here locally. Also this year I joined GFOA, which is Government Finance Office Association, and they offer training. I found their training to be very good. It's usually by professionals who are in the business. And we're actually hosting one of their events here on October 29th. So.
As that event, you will also get some credits by participating.
You don't really get. I could go. They have another program where you can get accredited, but it costs you more money. And I'm not totally sold on it yet. Because I can still go get the training. I just don't have to pay extra, and I have them say yes, you went to the training. So.
My assumption is, because as you know, with code zoning, there's some different requirements.
Right.
Your particular titles, civil service, everything else, you
I'm
don't
not
have any
required to
required
have-
ongoing.
It probably something I will look at next year, because it may be good for us just to have that certification, myself to have that certification for the town.
And the bookkeeper is,
That's Phil.
okay, so that's really down.
Well, we cut the death out of him.
What's wrong with his work?
Nothing. You kidding?
It's not his work, it's the micro grant projects dried up, and so he just comes in and pretty much is updating our policy book. We have a couple of things to clean up on the micro projects this year, so.
Pesh, he's taking care of for us.
Because he's been
So he's doing,
valuable. I mean,
he's still doing some work, it's just on a weekly basis.
we
But
don't
with the
just-
micro project, that took a lot of time.
And the money
That's
was in the grants too, so a great deal of
So that's why he.
So they just have to be maintained and watched and.
Yeah, he does some of his bookkeeping duties also.
Okay, so that's okay, he's gonna be doing that still for,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a bit random, and I meant to ask you yesterday. I know as we've been going along with some of the budgets, we've been putting either like initials for workers or, like various indicators. Is there a reason that it's not done like across the board? I know there's limitations with the software that you're
Right,
using,
right.
so I
No.
just didn't know if it was originally set up a certain way and.
With the highway, because it's broken down by each department,
Yeah.
we'd have to list everybody's name on each department
Yeah.
and a portion of their salary, so it would just be very time consuming to do that, and it would extend the budget.
Okay.
It can be done, it's not a matter of not being done, but everywhere else, like, all the general funds,
Yeah.
we can say, we know, okay, this person is in this department is going to him, where in the highway department, you may work on, doing snow plow during the
Sure.
winter, and then you're in repairs and you're in improvement,
Sure.
so you're all over the road.
We could accomplish the same thing if you had one of these without adding anything to the budget, couldn't you? Just
Yeah,
have it.
well, I think it's nice to be able to see who's in there, so what makes it, instead of just putting one line,
Oh,
personnel
yeah.
service, I think it's nice to see
I know, but
what
for
makes it.
the ones that you can't do that, I mean, this is, seems to me to be a good way to do it.
Yeah, we could go that route.
Retired health insurance, I guess I don't know, retired from the department, who
Correct.
beside Diane?
There's some, I have to go look. to the-
There are some,
Yeah.
God, I can't even think of who it could be.
Yeah, I'm just trying to go through the list. That's why it jumped up this year, is just because we added
Yeah.
Diane.
Oh, I was more, who the heck was it in 12, 13, 14? I can't think of who retired from that
I
department.
got Chauvin, Saban, Ormsby.
Bridget would have been under supervisor, wouldn't she?
Nope. Because Secretary of Supervisors in this department, general office stuff.
The secretary for,
Supervisors, yeah.
is in here?
Because it's called general office staff, so I think the two offices are combined together. Because
Um,
Phil's in there also, he's.
So is that Secretary of PS?
Yep.
That's the general office there?
Yeah, because you'll see right at the bottom of the page, it should say that.
I don't understand why that salary is different in 14 than it is in the tentative.
Could be,
And 13 is different. 14 should have been the same as 13.
could depend on sick incentive or longevity in there, so.
Oh, that's right, that's right, that's right. I forget about this.
So usually we'll look at the sick incentive and see what they did the prior year, and
Yeah.
see how they're doing currently this year, so.
And that really is misleading when you, I mean, I understand it, and we kind of talked about that the other day with Brian's, which makes sense. But when we see this as, if we think of it as a salary line, that's not a budgeted salary. It's part of a benefit package.
Correct. But it ends up being, so.
Ends up going in there, I understand that.
Where the longevity, you can understand, because you know that's a fixed number, and that's gonna be.
Yeah.
Sick incentive, if they're out sick, they may not get that, so.
But I think of people who don't have all the depth of understanding and all the details, and the message is, the salaries in 14 were the same as 13, and we budgeted the same in 15.
Right.
And you look at that one, all three are different. And you're right, I'm sure that is the reasons, and I'm not asking you to tell me. I'm just saying it sends a very confusing message. I don't know what, this is a good operational budget,
Yeah.
but when it, to reflect the procedures, it skewed a bit.
Well, I think that's why we should have this kind of thing for,
Yeah, and I mean, that's always available, but do we want to put that in the budget? I mean, I don't disagree with lumping them. I don't, until I have a need to know the particulars, we just need to function with the totals. But
well, it's
salaries are
important to
different.
keep track of when we have special requests and we have all
Oh,
the
yeah.
other things that are going on, if we know how to
And
break
and
it
that
down.
data's always there. I mean, they always have it. The carpet is well worn into the accounting office for a variety of those questions. They happen all the time. People coming in wanting to know what's in various accounts, who got what for particular purposes. Just, in the budget, how many details you want to put in there? It's a big enough, it'll end up like big government that has these 70,000-page documents that nobody reads.
I guess I haven't been asking this right along, but since you brought up retired health insurance. So all of those that we've seen in all the other departments are for people that retired from those departments.
Correct.
And we still currently have to pay them. Now,
Correct.
do some of those then end when they get Medicare, or when they get to
So the
65?
current contract, it does change, but the old contracts didn't have
So they go forever.
it.
So those costs are built
Perpetual.
in. All those costs are built in.
Till death do us part. That's what that whole actuarial thing that, you know, really frustrates me. We spend a small fortune to have them tell us numbers that we can't possibly isolate in the aggregate. And again, this little Sims government has taught me a lot. I can only get a headache thinking about how you manage things like Social Security based on actuarial data and, you know, even New York State retirement to assure all the funds for all the people living in yet to be born or something. It becomes a monster of a number.
Try the schools.
Oh, my goodness.
Look at that. Their
Sure.
OPEB is in the 20s and 30s of millions.
Yeah, I
It's
just,
like-
it's wild. And we won't really have to spend that as a whole ever. It'll always be a payment that happens periodically over a period of time. And, you know.
But as we go along, we don't, we can anticipate how much we're gonna need in the budget for the future based on when people are retiring.
Yes, that's what the actuarial.
Because we have another
gives us.
retirement coming up next year apparently, and that's
Yeah,
a fairly big one, and,
If people stay on pace for that.
yeah, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
I-
Depends on
I
what
think
the
that
contract
there's-
changes are too, that's why they do it every 3 years.
Okay, but, in other words, we're not gonna see any really big bump in a particular year,
No.
okay, from what we overall have the
No,
budget.
'cause you know, we average how many retire.
And that would be a responsibility of the finance manager as he learns that from the culture and people talk and you look at the actuarials to anticipate if that were to happen. We have a number of fiscal issues that, the way things currently read, people have some options with their accrued time, but it's gonna cost us. And if we have like a Diane who has the right to leave service but continue to receive a check, unlike Diane, in many cases, we have to pay an active body, and we're paying a body who's inactive until that terminates. But
And that's why we have to make sure we have the money in the budget.
Yeah, well, that's why you need expertise in finance.
When we're gonna increase that other one, right, for next year, for planning? From 5,000, we're gonna increase it to a reasonable amount, so if we're gonna do that? Well, same difference. You got people leaving, and you gotta have somebody in the slot.
We may have to. We may. There are still some unknowns with that. As far as people who indicate verbally their intent to retire when they put it in writing and they actually execute it, then I know they're retired. That changes often. Unlike you, that you knew you had a target and you pulled the plug. What other page do you have here again? It was 13, was it? Or tab rather?
5, 11,
13. I could
13.
remember now.
13 is just
Right.
that's the central services one. I was just referring to that one because that's where I took the
Mhm.
conferences on.
Okay. So we're gonna zero that out for the future?
Yeah, yeah,
It'll still be in there, you still have to stay in here, but
yes.
it'll just be
Is
zeros.
anything in there? Yes.
Can't take out what you, for 5 years.
2017.
5 years, you can take it out.
Yeah.
I have another meeting right around now, and you certainly can continue, but are there any other pieces to this, Pat, that weren't tagged to a budget that you feel we need to talk about right now?
I think we're going through all.
You have and I lovingly say I confuse, because to me it's all the same, surplus, fund balance, contingency account, those unappropriated funds as a particular line in here.
No,
Which, no,
no,
a
no,
pa-
no, no,
a
no.
particular tab that has, I thought I saw something in here with that phraseology. Contingency, 17.
That's a contingent fund,
40K.
which is, that's just in case of emergency or something.
Right, it's not appropriated to any expenditure.
Correct, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah.
Yes, we put that in there in case we do have an emergency, unforeseen expenditure. We did bump that up this year from 40 to 55, just because we have some issues with assessing and we wanted to make sure we can address those issues that we have to go out for appraisals or legal interest or anything like that.
And could even be the thing, you're concerned about, which could be a reality, a place where we might go as a
Right, it's still,
contingency.
it's still too low, but it's.
Oh, I don't
it's there.
disagree, but you know what? Look back at what we had in 2012,
I know.
I mean,
What are you?
this is
We're-
something we
We're
needed
increasing
to
very
do.
slowly.
well, we could have a $500,000 contingency, it would probably be just about right, but we've at least started. That'd probably be a little much
Yeah, we can do 10% less
for contingency.
debt. Yeah.
So that's still a considerable amount.
Yeah, we're still a little short, but we've started, and I mention it because I think it is a healthy sign that we've at least started, where if we had a unanticipated issue, we got a place to technically go and get it without having to beat our heads against the wall. I think that's good. I think Pat's done,
That's not an expenditure account either. So
Right.
you take it out of there and you put it into the expenditure account and then you spend on the expenditure.
right,
Because
which,
you want to know where you're spending, where it's
Exactly,
coming from.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I was at training the other day and, I think the guy was from the city of Rochester, but he's new to the job and he said his staff, when they fill one expenditure line item, they just move down to the next one, so they're never going over budget on that line item. So they never really know what their costs are for each item because they're just moving them all over the place. So he was like a little frazzled and said, no, you put it in there, we'll do a budget amendment. We'll
Yeah.
do it correct. So we know what our actual costs are.
Well, we've been doing that.
we've done that, yeah. Gotta create the paper trail.
But that's all I got, so.
No, it's good, and again, everybody did work well, you worked well with them. Structurally, it's a better budget, I think. And it's in the black, we're not spending money before we get it.
I just thought we might
That's
have a
good.
little bit, I mean, it went down, but I thought with that retirement, we might go down.
Well, and that's one of those things that we anticipate that will happen. Diane
Not
will
now.
cease to be, do you know about how much longer she's on? Till about December, isn't it?
No, she's done this one.
She's done this month?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, we're not, that's the savings we realized from that right there, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
You all, please feel comfortable to continue, but I've got to go
It just seems like
meet with
that
council.
would have been more, because it's not.
I guess,
I don't see how Cecil did.
Yep, thank you.
Now she's gonna get health insurance for that.
Yeah, that's
Kind of
right.
takes a little bit out of it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, so basically it takes a few years before you ever get down to saving money.
No. Do the best we can, and, retirement's a killer, when they're taking 20% of their salary, goes right for retirement. But there talk someday that it might be down to 12.5%. State for, them trying to keep
The
it
state,
level. Yeah.
Retirement.
Because they got crazy, they were doing 0% contributions, and
Well,
so everybody took the money and spent it, and then when all of a sudden they realized they gotta jack them up because the stock market tanked, and they go for 20%.
yeah, if they would have kept it even right straight
They
through,
would've
they'd
kept
have
it,
been
yeah.
fine.
I think that was a
Okay.
politician trying to get reelected or elected.
Oh, really?
We won't
You
go
think
there,
that
no.
was what it was?
We won't go there.
I don't go there. You got anything else?
No, I need to talk with a couple of department heads about some individual things. I know, I won't rehash everything, but one thing that I want to make sure is addressed before we move forward is the thing with Steve.
Yeah. Oh, that's-
So that's one thing in particular that I'm pretty interested in pursuing. I don't think it belongs in there. Appreciate it, and
Yeah.
If you have any questions, you know where I live.